On today's show, we've made it to draft week, where conversations will no doubt heat up on the trade front.
And to learn all about the trade rumors, we got scoops from Bruce Garrioch.
Over a half hour with Bruce, we'll get into all that. Plus, a former Senators fan favorite has announced his retirement. All that and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs are winding down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. The Olympics, baseball. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available everywhere you get podcasts. Also on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Make sure to check out our full first-round mock draft exclusively on YouTube. Pilsy, almost 6 hours of content, and we want to thank all the citizens and everyone from across the hockey world. It is already our third biggest video ever and rising.
Yeah, and we especially want to thank all those that joined us. I'm talking Jerome Berube, Scott Wheeler, Cam Robinson, Rachel Dory, and Brock Otten, some of our favorites. So we had them join us, and the mock draft that's our masterpiece. So we really hope people enjoy it.
Today is Monday, June 24th, and Pilsy, FanDuel, Oilers, Panthers, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Who you got tonight?
Every time I think I've made a decision, Ross, I flip it, but I'm going for the Sens angle here. I know it's only a fourth to a third round pick years later, but it helps the Sens. I want to see Vladimir Tarasenko lift the cup. Matthew Tkachuk lifting the cup, hopefully lights a fire under Brady. So sure, the Canada thing, that would be nice, but I'm all Senators, baby. So give me that Florida Panthers win.
I'm going to take the angle of enjoying greatness, and Connor McDavid has been all that and more. I think that just the story, the historic angle of telling our kids that the greatest player of our generation took this long to get to the final, and when he did, all hope seemed lost. They were down 3-0. He goes back-to-back 4-point nights, held off the score sheet in Game 6. The team gets it done, and now here they are, Game 7 on the road. And if I'm just going off of social media and all the videos I'm seeing of Fort Lauderdale, there's an oil spill by the beach. It is all Oilers jerseys. Everyone was chanting nice. Go Oilers Let's Go Oilers at the bars that are down in Florida. That's unbelievable. The atmosphere will be amazing tonight. They say the two best words in sports are Game 7. Like the four best words have to be Stanley Cup Game 7. Like it's on the line.
Or Ross, I'll take it to three best words. Game 7 overtime. If this game goes to overtime, oh my God, that would be awesome.
How likely do you think that is? We haven't seen overtime yet this Stanley Cup final.
I think it could happen.
Okay, well, we've got over a half hour coming up on Sens news and notes. We just figured you have to start with that. It is the whole season has culminated in this. It is the last possible day of the NHL calendar. The draft is in 4 days. It's this week. We're going to Vegas on Thursday. It is sneaking up so quickly. We've already kind of tried to line up a few things in Vegas. We're really looking forward to getting you that as it becomes available. There's going to be a vlog afterwards. We're stepping out of our comfort zone, and I cannot wait to share this great experience of the NHL draft with all the citizens out there. By the way, we will get back to our Sens Central citizen segment this summer. We're going to have a day for it each week, but my goodness, the Senators roster is going to look mighty different than it does today. So tomorrow on the show, Pilsy, we're going to pull up the Sens Game 82 lineup and the end of season lineup, and we're going to go through it and have a full audit of what we've seen and what changes need to be made as the offseason officially begins after tonight's game, which means that on Wednesday, the buyout window will be open. And another wrinkle, the buyout window will be open so close to the draft. Trade talks are all heating up. Could we see a culmination of all of that and an explosion of transactions? We very well could, and we will have you covered here on Locked On Senators every step of the way. Pilsy, tee up this interview with Bruce Garrioch, because my goodness, we don't get him on often, but he brings enough energy to last a year in a 30-minute sample.
Yeah, we love having Bruce on. Give a print guy a mic and a camera and watch what happens, and you get a lot of scoops, but a lot of laughs, a lot of entertainment along the way, and Bruce is perfect for that. So if you're sitting there thinking, I want to hear about Ullmark, I want to hear about Pinto, Brandstrom, possible buyouts, we got that coming up for you.
Yes, we do. And the Senators have just made a release right now on their Twitter. The preseason schedule is officially out. The Senators will play in 7 preseason games. Oh my goodness. That's it goes from September 22nd through October 5th. So that gives you a kind of feeling that it looks like the season will start between October 8th and October 12th, probably in that range. Usually you get a couple days off at the end of camp. But the preseason schedule is out. The Senators will play in Toronto on September 22nd. They will host the Leafs on September 24th. They will host Buffalo on the 26th. Then they will play their Hockeyville game in Northern Ontario, I believe around Sudbury. And then they'll be in Montreal on October 1st, in Detroit on October 4th, and hosting Montreal on October 5th. Obviously, personally, I'm upset that for the first time since I moved to Winnipeg, no game out here. Makes sense for the travel, the time zone. I get it, but selfishly, I loved seeing it. But the preseason schedule is out, so I want to get that to you, that Senators hockey is less than 3 months away. We are just under 3 months away from Sens hockey 2024-25 season, where the slogan is can't be worse than last year.
Yeah, okay. I was worried about what you're going to come up with there, Ross. That's a good one, though.
The last year was what? No excuses. This year is
no. It was playoffs or bust, comma, no excuses. Because playoffs or bust, I believe, was the year previous. So
can't get any worse. That's the official slogan of this upcoming season. But all that hype can change with a phone call, as our upcoming guest likes to say. But it does bear repeating that the Senators you knew yesterday, the ones you know today, it's not going to be the same in a week's time. We'll be here to lead you through all the transactions. Make sure to leave a comment below on who you hope the Senators target, whether it's in trade or in free agency, and let us know what you think of our interview with Bruce Garrioch. Final note, you're going to see a cut in the interview. It is one of the most gold pieces of content we've ever created, but because of potential copyright infringement, we just had to put this one on social media and leave it on the cutting floor for our podcast episode. So if you want to hear Bruce Garrioch sing Neil Diamond, go check us out on YouTube, go check us out on Twitter at Sens Central. Pilsy, that's the easiest tease I've ever done.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Definitely worth your time.
Bruce Garrioch is next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. Ross loves sports. You love sports. I love sports so much, though, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs are winding down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I got to do is open the app on my phone and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And Ross, the sports aren't over yet. We talked about it. Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals tonight. You asked, how likely is it that the game will go to overtime, Ross? On FanDuel, yes, the game will go to overtime, plus 300. and no is minus 450. So if you want to bet on extra hockey happening, game 7 isn't enough for you, you want more, you can do that. And the odds on FanDuel, the Oilers are minus 105 and the Panthers are minus 114. So very close there. You got to decide which way you're putting your money on FanDuel. Do it on North America's #1 sportsbook app, FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, now to our chat with Sens, Bruce Garrioch. All right, we now welcome a very, very special guest back to Locked On Senators. Whether you love him or hate him, you read every article he puts out with
How
the
could you
Ottawa
hate me?
Sun.
Hold it a minute here. Hold it a sec. How could you hate me? Hate's a strong word. Go ahead.
Bruce, we're going to make you likable here. We got you. We got you.
And
Hate's
Bruce
a strong word.
doesn't mute out the hate, he blocks it. You told us last time we had you on that he doesn't. The mute button's not strong enough. Have you changed your opinion? We're talking to Bruce Garrioch, of course, from Post Media.
As AKA Scoops.
Scoops.
Yeah, Andrew McBain gave me that nickname the first year, 1992-93. McBain was in the corner of the dressing room, and me and him and Chris Stevenson would sit there and exchange scoops after practice. He'd say, "Come on over, boys. Come into Scoops Corner." We'll share the guy loved the media. Anyway.
And is that back? Is that back far enough that there might have been a few frosty ones had in Scoops Corner?
Oh my God! Well, we did go for a few beers after practice a few times. Yep.
You would have needed to get through that season. What, 10 wins in 84 games?
Game with Mark Lamb, and Mark Lamb, of course, throws out the credit card. We're at a place in Hull, and
a place in Hull. You might want to clarify.
What was the name of the place? It was oh God, it was
just Brucey around LaVolt in its heyday.
Shalimar. I can't remember the name of the place. I can see it anyway, and the bartender says, "Oh, I've never seen that credit card before." Anyway, that was back when you drank till 3 a.m. and I could stay awake till 3 a.m.
Well,
yeah.
now everything's on your phone, Bruce. Now everything's on your phone.
I know. Now you're getting me off track here.
No, this whole show is off track. That's the beauty of it. But we see a more well put together, eloquent state of the franchise. What's going on?
You know what? It was the Shalimar. I was thinking of Tabasco's across the road. We're at the Shalimar. Was.
There you go. I'm sure some people got some memories of the Shalimar back in the day.
I'm sure they do.
There are a few memories had there. But hey,
or they have no memory.
Fair.
When you're putting together an article like you had yesterday, where it's like, hey, it's officially draft week. There's going to be a lot of player transactions around the league. How many people are you calling before an article like that goes out?
Oh, I usually speak to 6 or 7 people around the league. Certainly either scouts, assistant general managers, player agents, just to see if there's any buzz. I think there's been an awful lot of. One of the things I've learned through my discussions here is that the Senators have their hands in a lot of pots right now, guys. I think after missing the playoffs for the last 7 years, one of the things that Steve Staios has said to me from the time him and I had breakfast when he took over as general manager, because we live in the same neighborhood, and he's literally lives a couple of blocks from me. One of the things he said to me at that time was that he didn't like the way this roster was constructed. And I think he's found he's had a tough time, or a more difficult time than maybe he's thought, making changes to this roster. But there are a number of areas where I think he feels he needs an upgrade, not the least of which is the club's goaltending. I think if you look at the club's defense right now, they obviously have to improve that defense. And forward, they'd like to upgrade, I think, those third and fourth lines. So he's got a lot on the go. But I think, guys, I just added it up. I think he's been on the job 226 days. It's time for the talk to turn to action here. Yeah. He's got to start if you can't roll back with the same crew next year, and I love your nickname, Steady Steve, but it's time for Steady Steve to start making some hay.
Yeah, well, people started calling him Sleepy Stevie Stais instead, Bruce. So we've been saying wakey, old boy.
No, but I don't think it's for lack of trying.
No, definitely not. But
I think he's trying to make changes. From what I've been led to believe, and you guys tell me where you want to start with goaltending, you want to start with defense, you want to start with forwards. Like, where do you want to go?
Well, wait, before we get into that, because obviously we are, I had one question for you, Bruce. So we've been saying there's a lot of smoke around the Ottawa Senators. Where there's smoke, there's fire. They're working on stuff. But what about the smoke screens? Like, this is the time of year, the draft, where you hear all these little stories about teams putting out false information to try to drive prices. Like I've heard some people are saying Steve Yzerman is putting out information that Detroit wants a goalie to drive the price up for Ottawa artificially. You hear teams saying, we don't really like this player at the draft. We think he's not that good, to try to have other teams devalue him. Like, how do you, as a veteran, Bruce, and a guy that talks to so many people throughout the day, how do you pick out what's legit and what's just smoke screen?
Bruce's BS meter.
Yeah.
No, I just print everything. It's not my job to filter.
Fair.
No, you know what? You're right. Like, I think that you see scenarios, Brandon, certainly where guys are trying to drive up the price for the other teams. I think we've heard that Boston still feels that they should get a better price for Linus Ullmark than Calgary got for Jakob Markstrom. Sure, okay. But the problem that Boston is facing right now is a dwindling market. I think that Steve Yzerman has some interest in a Linus Ullmark. I also, Renaud Lavoie from TVA said last week that the Vegas Golden Knights have been kind of kicking tires on Linus Ullmark. I think under the ideal scenario, the Bruins would not trade Ullmark in their division, but I totally get the motivation that Yzerman has, and that in trying to drive the price up for Ottawa, because he's going to face them 4 or 5 times a year, right? So you're right. There is a certain amount of BS, but I think a lot of times what you see more is agents trying to drive up the interest in their players more than general managers and scouts and such trying to drive up the trade market for other teams.
So that's an interesting follow-up. But we talk about how you're talking to people before you write this article. How often are agents calling you to try to get a message out there?
Well, I don't know that there's so much calling you. I think that as part of your regular routine, you speak to agents. I mean, look, we all follow Alan Walsh on Twitter. I don't think he picks up the phone and calls anybody. I think he just goes straight to his Twitter account. Right?
We wouldn't know. We're blocked.
Oh, well, you guys have been bad boys.
No, it was just he thought David Perron did nothing wrong when he went after our Lord and Savior Artem Zub. So we just had to let him know that was not true.
How are you going to feel when David Perron signs with the Senators on
oh boy?
I'll read him all the tweets I wrote. If he'll come on the show, I'd love to.
Are you going to be okay with him signing?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I do think that's a guy they should be interested in.
That's the type of player, maybe not the guy though, Bruce.
No, I think you talk to anybody around the league. David Perron's a pretty good guy. Did he lose his mind with your guy Zub on that?
His wire snapped defending his captain. So
I may be on record as calling him a fake tough guy for the last 5 years, Bruce. I don't know if I go back on that.
But I think that he's a guy that they should absolutely think of signing. So
on that note, Bruce, do you think they need more cup champs in the room? Is that what you mean? Like type of player? Obviously, Perron's got one with the Blues, but Joseph's their only guy with a Stanley Cup ring, and he's a guy who might be on his way out.
Yeah, I do. I think they need more guys with experience. I think They need to look at guys like Tyler Toffoli in free agency. You know, I know that Corey Perry wanted to play here 4 or 5 years ago, and Pierre Dorion said to me at that time, if we were in a different position, I might think of that. Now I think, you know, do they bring in a guy like Perry? I think there's a number of kind of veteran free agents that they should be interested in. I do believe that Perron is a guy that they are going to look at.
Yeah, that would be interesting for sure. But let's stick to the biggest topic. We got to get into the Linus Ullmark trade possibility here, Bruce. And obviously, the Senators look like they're really the most aggressive team towards this. That's where most of the talks have been. Other teams are interested, but it really seems like the Bruins and the Senators are trying to get something done. How much of this hinges on the extension? Like, is there a world, Bruce, where you see the Senators say, look, we can't figure out the extension. Let's just get him at a rental price trade cost, and we'll hope to figure out an extension? Or is that just with the luck that the Senators have had with the Brinket and Chikrin and bringing guys in and not signing them? That's just a non-starter. Ullmark has to come with an extension for the deal to happen.
Well, I think he has to come with an extension, and that's just my opinion. I don't present any inside knowledge here because everybody's kind of gone underground on this file. But I think, look, they've gone that route, as you say, with the Brinkat, and it didn't work. I think that they look at this right now that they've got to have him signed to some kind of deal, and my sense is, guys, that deal's got to be long term and north of 6. You know, I kind of feel like we're at the point where Ullmark has to come here because it's been so public, probably not to their liking, but you know, that's why someone has that nickname.
Scoops.
Yeah.
Scoops.
But it's been so public and probably not to their liking that how do you just roll back with Corpy and Forsey next year and just like
a lot of people would prefer Pilsy and I in that next year.
Yeah, Sens fans would riot.
Like, I think you can't now.
Yeah, you can't.
And I guess that I think Brandon's got to come with an extension, and we'll see from there. And you know, the other thing is, I've always been like, well, they aren't going. I don't think there has been any discussion regarding buying out Korpisalo, but I do believe that if they do get Ullmark here before the buyout window ends, then they're going to have to explore that, or hope that, you know, they'd almost if they are thinking about buying Korpisalo, and I don't think they are at this point. But if they get him on a, you know, let's say a deal north of 6 for 5 years, then and they don't do that in time for the buyout window to close, and the buyout window closes, then they're going to have to make sure that Parker Kelly files for arbitration so they get another buyout window. I mean, like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here as I speak to you guys, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. I don't think they really have any designs on buying out Korpisalo. Perhaps they can trade him and retain some salary, and I think that's a possibility too if they're willing to retain.
Yeah, we just saw a trade not dissimilar where Darcy Kemper and Pierre-Luc Dubois were swapped. Obviously, probably a bit higher resumes on those two guys than Korpisalo, but I'm with you. You can't have $11 million tied up in goaltending a year beyond now.
I don't care how much the cap goes up, right? So.
No, it's still 8 years. But Bruce, like, look, you mentioned that you can't have another guy come in here without an extension. The other side of it, and I know this is not Steve Staios and the new regime's problem, but for fans, we see, we're going to give another goalie a long contract. Strike one, Matt Murray. Strike two, Joonas Korpisalo. Like, that would be the third guy you're bringing in on a long-term deal without them in your system. Not that Cam Talbot was another swing, but that was just a one-year error, unless you want to count the residual not having Philip Gustafson. But where do you look at the balance of that? Do you think that Ullmark's resume is so much better than those other guys, Matt Murray's cups aside, but recently he was struggling before? You're getting a goalie who just has too good of a track record. He can't be that bad.
Well, he won a Vezina a few years ago, right?
Yeah, and we talked on the show, like,
Yeah,
the Sens have been around for 32 years and never had a Vezina winner.
That's right. And so that has to say something about him.
And sorry, I should clarify that. Hasek obviously has Vezinas, but not in Ottawa.
Yeah, they don't need Linus Ullmark to be a savior. They just need him to make saves. I mean,
That's poetic, Bruce.
As I said that, I wished I had written.
They don't need a savior. They just need a save.
If only we were recording.
I don't think I've ever written that in 32 years. Like,
there's your lead. There's your lead when they get him.
I'm gonna type that today. I think
that is a good one.
What time's this coming out? Oh, I should be good. I think that what you can talk to me about systematic play and whatever, but if you give up 22 goals on the first or second shot of a game, that's got nothing to do with system. And so they just need some consistency in net. And I said this to the owner, I said it to you, Ullmark Korpisalo and Forsberg drive me nuts. Like that he says, you're very critical of her goaltending. I said, well, those two drive me nuts. Just make it safe.
You're speaking for the fans there too. Yeah, it was frustrating this year.
Just make a save.
Yeah.
And
you can just point and be like, nobody was worse.
When you say that goalies make a save you're not supposed to make. What have we seen Stuart Skinner do to get the Edmonton Oilers Game 7? He's made saves that maybe he's not supposed to make. Why did the Florida Panthers win the first 3 games? Because Sergei Bobrovsky was out of his mind in Game 1. He made some saves that he wasn't supposed to make.
Yeah.
So
I take it to you, Bruce, goaltending is the number one priority this offseason?
Yeah, but it can't be the only priority. That defense has got to be better. We've talked about the fact that Jacob Chychrun is likely going to be on the move. From what I'm led to believe from other teams, the asking price is high. I think that you're looking at they've got a decision to make on Eric Brandstrom. Eric Brandstrom is an NHL player, but is he worth $2 million? Can you get him? I think one of the things that to bring him back, one of the things they'll talk to him about is perhaps a pay cut. Otherwise, they could. I don't know if he qualifies for reverse arbitration. I'm just not sure. I guess that possibility exists, and I think they just won't. The bottom line is they likely just won't qualify. So.
Now, speaking of RFAs, Bruce, we got to get to the big RFA, and that's Shane Pinto. I mean, Ross and I have been going crazy. We've moved.
You're going to be okay.
We've moved the goal lines and the deadlines so many times. We're like, okay, it's got to happen before World Championship. Okay, it didn't happen. Okay, when he gets back, they're going to hammer this out. Still hasn't happened. It's got to happen before the draft. The draft is coming up in a couple of days. Bruce, where are these two sides on the negotiation? And my kind of working theory is I think a bridge deal makes most sense for Pinto and for the Sens. But for me, I think what's hesitating the Sens from signing Pinto long-term is not that they don't think he's worth it, not that they don't think he's going to develop into a great player or that they don't want him around. It's not it at all. I think they're so unsure about what's going to happen with Josh Norris that they're not going to be able to properly know where Shane Pinto stands in their organization. Is there any truth to that? Like, do you think what's the Josh Norris situation is causing a holdup in a long-term deal, or is that completely irrelevant?
I'll tell you what, I think they may be doing this dance for a while. I do. I mean, based on everything I've heard, I think that I said I believe that Pinto wants a 5 or 6 year deal in the $5 million range. I think that the Senators' last offer was a 5 or 6 year deal, not close to that. I know that Shane Pinto and guys like you don't like to hear this, but I do believe that 41 game suspension still hangs over his head a little bit, no matter how he played when he came back. Yeah. He also had the shoulder issue. I think there is some hope from Pinto's camp that he'll get an offer sheet on July 1. Whew. I don't see that happening because I just don't see a scenario where teams.
The Senators would match it right away.
Exactly. I mean, it'd be a waste.
Like that would just get the contract done.
Yeah, that'd just be the biggest waste of time going.
It'd be a stressful 6 days, though.
Yeah, but so I guess that we'll see where this goes, but I just don't see it happening.
Is there any chance that Shane Pinto's traded?
I do think it could drag till September.
But do you think he could get traded?
But I also thought,
Bruce is getting the next song ready for your answer.
Yeah.
Bruce.
Can you just hold on 1 second? Can you just pause me for 1 second?
You're in a conversation with Bruce. We'll get right back to it. But first, let's drive over for a word from our friends with eBay Motors.
Yes, Ross, eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy. So the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers want to practice that, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and even level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
All right, now more from Scoops. Is there any chance that Shane Pinto is traded this summer?
Oh, no.
Because sometimes we see that with RFAs where if a negotiation doesn't go anywhere, it's like, all right, well, let's just, boom, move them. You don't think that could happen here?
No. Do you?
I hope not. I think he's too valuable.
I wrote this, so I don't mind saying it. I know the Boston Bruins asked for...
be crazy if they didn't.
In a deal for Linus Ullmark, and Ottawa just said no, that we're not going that route. And I've spoken to some other teams that have asked them about Pinto, and they've said no, we're not going that route. So, and I think one of the concerns they have with Shane Pinto and what they give him, guys, is they've got to sign Ridley Gregg next summer, right? So you want to be careful how you tier things too. So if I'm singing September Morn in September, and I'm driving around with a suit in September, I hope not.
So, Bruce, you mentioned suits, and that needs this follow-up question, because as the prolonged sale of the Ottawa Senators continued, you had a suit in the back seat of your car ready for anything that came your way. Is that suit still there?
No, because I figured there's not really anything happening. But that's what I'm saying. Like if Shane Pinto doesn't sign soon, I got to be honest, the suit's going in the car. Mind you, I'm headed to the lake in about 7 days for a month, but I got a suit up there in case anything happens.
Yeah, no doubt.
When DeBrincat got traded last summer, everybody was down at the beach drinking beer, and I was sitting in my room in a suit talking to Jay Onrait. So
hey,
different strokes for different folks. Hey, Bruce. Everyone's already following your work, Post Media, Ottawa Sun, Ottawa Citizen. That's where I got it the last few months. Because hey, look, if I'm gonna be chirping guys like David Perron, I got to tell you straight to your face, I had to mute you during the year. You know why?
Why?
because nobody tweets out the scores faster than you. Like,
Oh yeah.
do you get some sort of sick pleasure with that? Like, I'm watching on Sportsnet now. I'm a minute delayed, and I usually get like maybe an update, but every time it's Bruce, and I don't even get who scored. I don't get what happened. I just get 1-0.
I actually
1-1.
I actually felt that pain on Saturday night, because you know when they had the replay on the no goal.
Yeah.
Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnson, and Mike Russo are the three of them all tweeted it was no goal before the call came on TV. And I'm thinking, now I know the good people.
Feel it.
All right, I'll try and slow down next season.
Yeah, take it easy, Bruce. No, we obviously love and appreciate all the work that you do going in to keeping us informed. And I mean it. It's almost that old Howard Stern. Hey, they love me, they watch for 10. They hate me, they watch for 15.
I got to tell you. So what are we doing this week? So are we going to see a Chikrin trade? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we going to see Matthew Joseph traded?
Yes.
No.
Possible. Are we going to see Hamonic bought out?
Yes.
You don't think they just give him a one-way ticket to Robida Island?
No, I think, you know, Steve Stales played with him. I don't. I think that although, you know, they've lost, if they could bring Hamonic back as a 7th, that I guess that's possible.
You could probably save $400,000 though if you just have.
I don't know that he'd be happy with that. That would be the only way I see him back.
I'd put Martin Paolo as my 7th defenseman before I put Hamonic back there next year.
Yeah,
just from the standpoint that the record when he was in the lineup versus out was substantially lopsided. Now, I get it. He's a 7th defenseman. He's not going to make or break the team. But in the ultimate team sport, it just feels like it was a net negative every single night. And it sucks because he was an awesome top 4 defenseman for a number of years. If it was 2014 Travis Hamonic, sign him up. Yeah. But it just feels like, you know, Father Time undefeated. So, okay, so maybe a Hamonic buyout. You were saying that, look, if they can't find any sort of trade partner, maybe they go that route with Korpisalo.
Yeah, maybe.
And then, okay, so do you think?
I put that as a very, low maybe. I've never been one that thought they were going to buy him out.
You're looking at 8 years of payments.
And as of when I talked to them 10 days ago, and they don't generally lie, they said they had not even discussed it.
So now, since we're going down
at that point though, I don't think they were as embroiled in let's put I don't think they were as involved in talks with Linus Ullmark as they are now.
Right.
Okay. Interesting. Lots of great info. Pills, you got any final questions for Bruce? I got one.
Yes, I do. Final question for me, Bruce Scoops Garrioch, is, look, Ross and I are going to the draft. We're fired up about the draft. The 7th overall pick is so exciting for us. We've done all our research. You put in your latest article that Steve Staios has been working out a scenario where he trades back. Ross and I are in support of that. Get some more draft capital. It's a deep draft. There's lots of opportunities here. How serious do you think this is? And do you know which teams or what range of trading back he's looking at? Are we talking 1 or 2 picks or 4 or 5, or is the trade back going to involve roster players, or it's strictly picks? What are we working with here, Bruce?
Well, he told me, and I asked him, the scenario I put to him was, if you were to trade number 7, would it be go back 2 or 3? He said, yeah, that's what I'd be looking at.
Okay, so we do line, Bruce. Feel free to print this. There's a big fall off after 14. We've got a top 14 that we really like.
Yeah, no, he said he'd be willing to go back a couple, but 2 or 3, but not too far. If he thought he could get the guy they wanted, and that was the way I put it to him. If he thought they could get the guy they wanted 9 and 10, they'd do that. But I don't think they're really. I don't think you're looking at them going out of the first round completely to get an asset. I don't see that. I think 25 they would do that. I think that scenario is absolutely on the table at 25. But if you if you held a gun to my head right now and said, Bruce, what's going to happen with round 1? I would say they'll take number 7.
No gun to your head, just a microphone to your mouth, Bruce. All of this great info. Final question from me.
It's okay.
It's
Go ahead.
almost as dangerous.
Yeah.
Do you have any final questions for us, Bruce?
Linus Ullmark, yes or no? Can we get this over with? Really?
Yes, with an extension. Yes, all day.
I'd say yes too.
Yeah. What's the tie between all these long drawn out processes? Is that an NHL thing and we're just hyper sensitive to it because it's Ottawa? But it felt like the Brinket to Detroit was like a month-long thing. Like, what's this with, we know where it's going to go, but why hasn't it pulled trigger?
Well, I think it's because it's the old saying, right? You're not buying a suit. You're investing a lot of money in a future asset. There are a lot of moving parts to this. I think it takes time.
Yeah.
And, I think that, look, I think this new group with Michael Andlauer and Steve Staios and Dave Poulin, I believe they're committed to making this team better. I think that they've probably taken a little longer to evaluate than you and I and everybody else would like. But I think we're getting to the point where I think the next week here is going to be pivotal.
And it's going to be awesome to see. You're obviously following him. Son Garrioch, should be Scoops Garrioch, but we'll settle for Son for now. Bruce, final question for me. Game 7, Stanley Cup final. Who do you got tonight?
Well, I hope the Oilers. I think it'd be nice to have the Stanley Cup back in Canada. I think that it would solidify Connor McDavid as the player we all think he is. That being said, I'm not taking anything for granted, because if the Panthers return to that mean style they had in the first, I would say, or in games 2 and 3 of this series, then it could be a tough night for Edmonton as well.
Now, Bruce, as Sens fans, though, we have an alternative motive. We want the Florida Panthers to win the cup. Move that 4th round pick to a 3rd round pick in 2026. That's huge. Also, screw the Canada thing. Sens fans or Panthers fans, that 3rd round pick could be pivotal.
In 26?
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
Ross and I have already started working on prospect profiles for that.
Yeah, you guys just did
just 80.
Oh,
who do you?
God.
It's a lot. It's a labor of love, but hey, that's what it's all about. Just like you scooping it up and chatting with all these people. How many different people would you consider a source in the Sens organization? Not who, but how many people are you calling?
I talk to lots of people. Let's put it that way. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a bad question.
A reporter does not unveil his sources easily, I learned.
All right, fellas.
That's Bruce Garrioch from Post Media. You can find him, Son Garrioch, and make sure you're reading all of his articles, Ottawa Sun and Ottawa Citizen online. All right, Pillsy. Some stick taps are in order for Bruce there. What an absolute beauty. Of course, you're already following him on social media, and just a wealth of information, and what a comedian at that. So appreciate having Bruce on the show. Pillsy, any final thoughts for you today?
Yes, final thoughts for me is we had some retirement news. Happy retirement to Derick Brassard. I mean, Brass, 2-time Senator, 2 terms with the Ottawa Senators, and the final team he played for, you'll love to see that. He was definitely a fan favorite. I know there's a corner of Sens fans that are still upset about the Zibanejad trade. Don't blame you, but that's not Derick Brassard's fault. He came in, he was a good soldier, he was a big part of the playoff runs. So happy trails to Derick Brassard. And Ross, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him working with the hockey team sometime soon, because that guy has so much experience. He played on so many different teams. So I think a hockey club would love to have him, especially Ross, the Ottawa Senators.
It would be awesome to see him hired as an assistant in the front office type role. You know, we're seeing that more and more around the league, where former players, they just want to almost like dip their toe in, almost like they're doing like a postgraduate degree, where it's like just seeing kind of how the thing works. That's what Daniel Alfredson did initially when he was brought in to the organization. Derick Brassard had 11 points in 19 playoff games during that 2017 run. Nothing more famous or more memorable than that game 2 against Boston, where him and Karlsson got their wires crossed and Craig Anderson came out to play the puck. It ends up in the back of their net. Carl just giving it to Brass down the bench in front of everybody, calling him out. And what did they do later? Carl just gallops across the offensive zone, seam pass, Brassard, one knee down, unbelievable celebration. And there's a great photo. I couldn't find it, but Derick Brassard was one of the stars that night, and he was popping the Sens logo going off the ice, just so excited, exuberant. He obviously meant a lot to him, much like Mark Mathot, the other local guys playing for the Ottawa Senators. So happy trails to Derick Brassard. 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, 118 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Got to, I believe, one Stanley Cup final with the New York Rangers. Could not get that trophy, but he's got an entire basement full of jerseys now because after leaving Ottawa, first it was Columbus for a long time, drafted there. By the way, high pick, 6th overall in the 2006 draft. Went to the Rangers, had a ton of success there, came to Ottawa, then went Pittsburgh, Florida, Colorado, Islanders, Arizona, Philly, Edmonton, and then back to the Ottawa Senators. So a great career, and to see him have that moment in his 1,000th game right before the blown out knees ended his career, such an awful way to go. But to score 2 goals in the building where you had the most success on the road, that had to be a special moment for him.
Yeah, and I'm glad his 1,000th game was with the Sens, Ross, because you really saw, and just look at Senators players, social media, all wishing him a happy retirement. Like, that meant a lot to obviously Brass and the rest of the guys. So clearly he was a well-liked, respected teammate. So we're wishing all the best for Derick.
Happy trails to Derick Brassard. So Derick Brassard's played in the Stanley Cup Finals before, and well, Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final, it's just a different beast. So why don't you go and watch the game with your friends tonight at the Glebe Central Pub over at 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. We're chatting with our friends at the GCP right now, hoping to have some news for you about the draft on Friday. But as of right now, get to the GCP. It's wing night too. 75-cent wings at the Glebe Central Pub. So go watch the game. Obviously, they've got the sound on and the vibes are free at the GCP. All right, great show today. Thanks to Bruce Garrioch for joining us. Lots more to come later this week. Full roster reset tomorrow. I have a feeling we're going to get some news Wednesday or Thursday. The other day of those two, we will have our final draft rankings for the Locked On Senators podcast going in to the draft. Again, you want more from us? How about a 6-hour mock draft? I'm going to clip a few of the smaller portions in case that is too overwhelming for you. However, there are timestamps so you can bounce around the video. Thanks so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show. It means a lot to us. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.